This well-loved hymn, made famous by the Billy Graham Crusades and George Beverly Shea in particular, is one of the most fascinating histories of any modern hymn. It was written in different countries in diverse languages over the course of 70 years with the input of several translators who never met. The life of this majestic hymn of praise began in 1886 in a picturesque estate on the southern coast of Sweden. The Reverend Carl Boberg, who was also a member of the Swedish Parliament and a successful editor, strolled across the well-kept grounds of the coastal estate, and as he did so, was caught in a thunderstorm, sudden summer thunderstorm, tongue twister that is. Taking cover under some trees, he watched as the sky changed from angry blacks and grays, streaked with flashes of lightning, to clear, bright blue again. In the stillness after the storm, Boberg heard the birds begin to sing. Boberg reported that witnessing this awesome demonstration of the variety and power of God caused him to fall to his knees in spontaneous outburst of adoration and praise. After returning home, he put his thoughts on paper in a poem he titled O Stor Gud, or O Great God. This poem was later published in several periodicals, including the one Boberg edited, paired with a Swedish folk melody. In 1907, Manfred von Glenn, a German residing in Estonia, saw the hymn and translated it into his native tongue. 5 years later, in 1912, a Russian pastor, Reverend Ivan S. Prokhanov, well known for his evangelical zeal and his efforts to bring fresh expressions of faith into the church, came across the German version and translated it into Russian for his congregations. Prokhanov printed several small booklets of hymns, and in 1922 his friends in the American Bible Society had all his hymns compiled into one volume and published the Russian hymnal in New York. Copies were then shipped back to Russia for use in the various Christian churches there. It was at this time that the hymn fell into the hands of Mr. and Mrs. Stuart K. Hine, an English couple serving as missionaries to the Ukraine. Initially, the Hines used the Russian version exclusively in their ministry, but as they traveled through the countryside singing the hymn as a duet, they were impressed with the effect it had on those who had never heard the gospel before. It was during this time that the idea of an English translation came to Stuart Hine. Although he used many of the same phrases written by Boberg decades earlier, Hine also included impressions of God's grandeur gained from his excursions in the Carpathian Mountains, where he had witnessed all the works thy hands have made. In addition, he recalled the miracle of the gospel and the gift of salvation offered in Jesus Christ, and the effects of this on the unevangelized villages in Russia, Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Romania. With these recent memories in his thoughts, Hine wrote the English translation of the first 3 verses of How Great Thou Art. When war broke out in 1939, the Hines were forced to leave their missionary posts in Eastern Europe and return to Great Britain. Among their personal belongings were the 3 stanzas of the hymn. Although they had been forced to leave their foreign field, the Hines continued to minister to the flood of refugees that streamed into Britain. Stuart Hine later reported that it was the repeated question of these displaced persons, when will we be going home, that caused him to write the 4th stanza of the hymn, recalling that final homegoing of all believers. In 1949, Stuart Hine published his hymn, How Great Thou Art, in a Russian gospel magazine, and missionaries from all over the world requested reprints. It was one of these reprinted leaflets that was handed to the member of a Billy Graham Crusade team in 1954. The hymn was included in the Toronto, Canada Crusade in 1955 and has been a favorite of Graham's Crusade audiences ever since. Its great popularity can be attributed not only to the beautiful words and uplifting melody, but also to the continual exposure the hymn received on radio and television broadcasts in the last 30 years. How Great Thou Art is a hymn that begins on earth and ends in heaven, carrying the worshippers from the creation with all its beauty and splendor to the Creator in all His majesty. It is this uplifting quality of both message and music that has made this hymn a favorite of congregations all around the world. O Lord my God, when I in awesome wonder Consider all the worlds thy hands have made. I see the stars, I hear the rolling thunder, thy power throughout the universe displayed. Then sings my soul, my Saviour God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Saviour God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. When through the woods and forest glades I wander, and hear the birds sing sweetly in the trees, when I look down from lofty mountain grandeur, and hear the brook and feel the gentle breeze, and when I think that God his Son, not sparing, sent him to die, I scarce can take it in, that on the cross, my burden gladly bearing, he bled and died to take away my sin. Then sings my soul, my Saviour God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Saviour God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. And when Christ shall come with shout of acclamation and take me home, what joy shall fill my heart! Then I shall bow in humble adoration, and there proclaim, my God, how great thou art! Then sings my soul, my Saviour God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Saviour God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou